All right, future CPAs, let's jump right in and absolutely nail a huge topic for the bar exam, government-wide financial statements. We're actually combining two key concepts here because, honestly, you can't understand one without the other. See, the whole world of governmental accounting boils down to this one major conflict, a long-term, big-picture economic view versus a short-term, what's in the checkbook view. And you can bet the CPA exam is designed to test you on exactly that difference. So today, we're going to master the logic so you can ace these questions. Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to tackle the why behind this whole dual reporting thing. Then we'll zoom in on the government-wide view, the big picture. After that, we'll put the two views head-to-head so you can really see the difference. Then comes the secret weapon, reconciliation, the bridge that connects them both. And we'll wrap it all up with a killer framework for just demolishing any exam question that comes your way. So why on earth do we have this dual system? Well, it all comes down to accountability. Just think about it for a second. We need to answer two totally different questions. First, is the government financially stable for the long run? Can it keep the lights on for the next 20 years? And second, did the government actually follow the law and stick to its budget this year? These two reporting models are built to answer those two separate but equally critical questions. And that leads us straight into our first section, the dual reporting perspective. The whole reason for these two sets of books is to answer two different accountability questions. One is about long-term operational health. Are we using our resources well over time? The other is about short-term fiscal compliance. Did we spend this year's money the way we said we would? Let's dig into that first one. So let's start with the big picture, the government-wide view. For the exam, I want you to immediately think of these statements as a government's version of a corporate annual report. That's the key. Their entire purpose is to show the overall financial health and performance of the government as if it were one single company, focusing on that long-term sustainability. Now, what drives this big picture view? Well, it's an accounting basis that should feel really familiar to you, full accrual. And the rule is just what you'd expect. We recognize revenue when it's earned and expenses when they're incurred. It doesn't matter when the cash actually moves. This focus on the economic event itself is what gives us that critical long-term perspective. And that accounting basis ties directly into what we call the economic resources measurement focus. This just means we are measuring everything, all assets and all liabilities. We're talking about the current stuff like cash for sure, but, and this is the important part, it also includes long-term assets like fire stations and police cars, and long-term liabilities like bonds. We're capturing the entire economic picture, not just what's in the bank right now. So all of that feeds into the first of our two government-wide statements, the statement of net position. This is, for all intents and purposes, the government's balance sheet. The formula couldn't be simpler. You take all assets, subtract all liabilities, and what's left is your net position. And that net position figure, that's basically the government's equity. It's a single, super powerful number that shows its overall financial health. Let's put some numbers to this to make it stick. Let's say the city of Greenfield has total assets of $500,000. That's cash, buildings, everything. And it has total liabilities of $200,000. Well, its net position is simply $300,000. That one number gives you a powerful long-term snapshot of the city's financial standing. It's what the city owns free and clear. Okay, the second government-wide statement is the statement of activities. And if the statement of net position is the balance sheet, then you should think of the statement of activities as the income statement. Its entire job is to show what it costs to provide government services, how those services were paid for, and ultimately to explain how the net position changed from the beginning of the year to the end. So, let's lock in the key characteristics you have to know for the exam. These are the non-negotiables for the government-wide view. Number 1, we include all long-term assets and all long-term liabilities. Number 2, because we have those capital assets, we absolutely recognize depreciation expense. And finally, the statements have to split out governmental activities, the core public services, from business-type activities, like a city-owned water utility that pays for itself. Okay, let's move on and compare these two views side by side. This is where we bring in that other perspective, the fun view, to really see the contrast. And the key thing to remember is that we're looking at the exact same transactions, but they tell two totally different stories. Why? Because they're designed to answer two totally different questions. I want you to burn this slide into your brain. This is your ultimate cheat sheet. On one side, you have the government-wide view. It's long-term, it uses full accrual, and it measures all economic resources. It's the glossy corporate annual report. On the other side, the fund view. It's short-term, uses modified accrual, and measures only current financial resources, the stuff you can spend today. The best analogy? It's like a simple checking account register. So when you boil it all down, it's about the question being answered. The government-wide statements are asking that big, sweeping question. Overall, how is our government doing financially? But the fund statements, they're asking something much more immediate and focused. Did we stick to our budget? And what happened to our available, spendable cash this year? All right, let's see this clash in action with our city of Greenfield. The city buys a piece of equipment for $100,000. Now, from that long-term, government-wide perspective, this isn't an expense. It's just swapping one asset, cash, for another asset, equipment. So a $100,000 capital asset pops up on the books, and its cost will be spread out as depreciation expense over its useful life. But now let's flip the coin and look at the fund view. Remember, the fund statements are obsessed with spendable current resources. From this short-term viewpoint, buying that equipment just burned through $100,000 of cash that could have been used for something else. So it's immediately recorded as an expenditure, a use of current financial resources. It's gone. See that? Same transaction, two completely different treatments, and it's all because of the different perspectives. Now, this is where it all comes together. If we've got these two sets of books telling such different stories, how do we prove they're both right and actually connected? The answer is reconciliation. And this isn't just some boring accounting exercise. It is the absolute critical bridge that logically connects the fund statements to the government-wide statements. It shows how you get from one to the other. So you're probably asking yourself, wait, how can a $100,000 purchase be both a brand new asset and an immediate hit to our resources? Well, it can, because the reconciliation schedule explains every single logical adjustment needed to transform the fund view into the government-wide view. It's the proof that they are just two sides of the very same financial coin. Look, on the exam, you're not going to prepare a full reconciliation from scratch, but you absolutely have to understand the logic. Here's how it works. You start with the fund balance number, then you add back capital assets. Why? Because the fund view completely ignores them. You do the same thing for long-term liabilities. Then you make some adjustments for timing differences between the two accounting methods and a few other things. Each step is just a logical conversion to get you to that big picture. Let's go back to our $100,000 piece of equipment to see this bridge in action. In the fund statements, that purchase is a $100,000 expenditure that reduces the fund balance. Simple. But in the reconciliation, that same $100,000 is a star player. It gets added back as a reconciling item to convert that short-term fund perspective into the long-term government-wide perspective where it's properly shown as a capital asset. See how that works? Okay, let's bring it all home and focus on what really matters, how you are going to use all this to pass the bar exam. I'm going to give you a simple, repeatable framework to attack any governmental accounting question they could possibly throw at you. This isn't about memorizing entries. It's about building the right thought process. This is your mental checklist for every single question. Step 1, and it is by far the most important, identify the perspective. Is the question asking about the statement of net position, or is it asking about the general fund? Once you know the perspective, everything else just clicks into place. You'll know the measurement focus, you'll know if long-term stuff belongs, and you'll know exactly how to treat the transaction. Perspective always, always comes first. Now let's talk about where students get tripped up. These are the common exam traps. The number one mistake, hands down, is mixing up expenditure with expense. Remember, expenditures are in the fund world, expenses are government-wide. Another huge trap is forgetting that fund statements kick out all long-term items. The exam loves to throw a long-term bond question at you and ask about its effect on a fund statement. Your job is to know you have to ignore it in that context. So, to wrap this all up, here is your final checklist for exam day. Before you even look at the numbers in a question, you ask yourself, what statement am I looking at? Is this a government-wide question or a fund-based question? Do long-term assets and liabilities even belong here? Only then can you figure out the correct impact. I promise you, exam questions will use weird, non-rounded numbers just to distract you, but the logic, the perspective, always stays the same. Get the perspective right, and you will get the answer right.